Night. I thought I'd do a little video to go over some questions which you may have about the assignment 2 for your presentation, since it's the week when we're starting the presentations. So I'm going to tackle, open up the criteria, that's what I have on there. I just wanted to go through that again to just highlight before the teams begin some aspects in the rubrics that I want to make sure that you've had a look at. And then I'm going to talk about some of the prepping, technical housekeeping about assistance or help, or maybe access to me that you might want before you start a presentation to get sort of comfortable with Collaborate. And then I'll talk about the briefing note as well. So if we go through, let's aim for the B+, A- category. It's the one that most people want to achieve. Some of it is fairly straightforward. Style, language, presentation is correct. Contribution of the material to knowledge around the topic is clear. So this is an important one. So again, this makes implicit or even explicit reference to the fact that you need to do a bit of digging, a bit of reading. That we expect you to use either readings from the course or do your own exploration and draw from sources. In the presentation, people have been asking me about this, about podcasts and videos that you make. When you make the presentation, we don't expect you to be following APA conventions. It can be a nod simply, but the nod is, says a lot about the fact that you're doing a nod to an author, doing a nod to a theory, you're doing a nod to a school of thinking, and then in your briefing paper, you'll have time to actually do the referencing properly. So don't worry too much about, it's a presentation needs to be engaging and keep your audience sort of stimulated, and the nods can be in passing. They don't have to be formal. Don't worry about that. There's no such thing as APA format verbally. So a nod is sufficient. If we continue on the line, media included adds value to the presentation paper. I don't know if you're going to do videos. We'll talk about videos and Collaborate. I'll make a note there, and I'll come back in the second section of this short video. Participants will be given the opportunity to engage actively with the presentation and technology. So this is important. Most of the presentation style that we're now aiming for in higher education, particularly at master level, is really something that sort of reflects what people call TED Talk. And if you go to conferences, you will see now that many conferences are actually explicitly saying, we want presentation to be in TED Talk or TED format, meaning that it has to be concise, engaging, interactive if possible, and yet obviously academic in tone and in content. So that's what we're aiming for. So don't hesitate to engage your participants and the people that will be online with you. I hope that we will have a few that do the courtesy of attending the session. Take the time, a few minutes to ask the questions. Often, if you ask a couple of questions when you start with the session, it sort of recenters people on why you're tackling this question and why you adopted this topic generally, or this question. Text is legible, accurate. That's more for the briefing note. You're supposed to follow APA guidelines then, because it's really a written document. It won't be a problem for the presentation. Research, analysis, and knowledge. So the sort of next 40%. Question or topics clearly defined. I think that speaks for itself. Perspective argument of the group is clearly articulated. So there may be a danger there because you're working in teams, and that's where we'll see the result of the team chemistry as to whether you have sufficiently structured and articulated as a group rather than different perspectives coming in and talking about different things. That really is where we see the sort of the team health, and we see the process with which that you followed through your experience as a team. And then the next one is really important. Presentation paper is well researched and draws on a variety of relevant sources. Okay, so I just wanted to stress it again, that this is the part where we really are asking for something academic here. In the presentation, again, just in tone, just nodding to the various sources that you've used. It can be very quick, but that we see that you've pushed your reflection a little further than just being a personal reflection. It's a reflection that, as a practitioner reflects, a scholar practitioner, we start with our experience. And this is really important because this notion of scholar practitioner has been created as a reaction to the notion of an academic in the ivory tower that has no connection with the world. You're not that, and most faculty of education take pride in the fact that they're grounded in practice. So scholar practitioner reflection starts with your observation in your practice, but then as you widen the scope and as you seek conceptualization of the things that you have observed, that's where you look to the field to see, well, is there a connection between what I'm seeing in my practice and what people have analyzed or have researched or have talked about? Because that's what's going to enable you to actually extract themes and concepts rather than stay stuck in what we call empirical observation, right? Your senses can only go so far. Your experience, your opinions can only go so far. What enables you as a process to go further is the fact that you start there, but at one point you actually look outwards and you look at what other people are doing. How does this experience that I'm having as a practitioner connect with the experience that other practitioners are having and other scholars are having? And suddenly your reflection takes a wider scope, achieves conceptualization, a degree of conceptualization, depending on how far you push it. And that's the work that we're looking for. And that's what we call a scholar practitioner sort of process. It's really important. I can't stress it enough. It may be like I'm being nitty-gritty and I'm asking you absolutely to demonstrate this, but don't forget that you're going towards 610, and that scholar practitioner model that you're trying out now, you're going to be with it for 6 months. So it's really important that we definitely trigger that mechanism now, so that you're fully sort of ready to embrace it when you get into 610, because then you do that on your own with myself for 6 months, and it's going to be pleasurable. I think once you get ready to that reflex, it's a reflex. Start here, look around, use resources and sources, and achieve a level of conceptualizations. Once you've done that, it becomes second nature because you become an academic, and that's what we hope happens on the masters, is that we make you do this over and over again till it becomes a sort of frame for your way of thinking and your way of approaching reality when you are trying to study and look at phenomena around you. Perspective of multiple stakeholders involved in technology integration are clearly discussed. This is really important too, because that's what we've been discussing in the whole of Unit 2. So we do want to see that your reflection, whether or not you've actually contributed to the discussion boards, because you don't have to. You can choose the 5s that you want to focus on. But whether or not you've actually engaged in conversation during this unit, we want to see that you have engaged with the readings and that you've tried again to reflect and conceptualize on this notion of the complexity and the inherent issue that this gives rise to. The end is very simple, because it's again your team health participated fully, that we want to see that everyone has a voice, everyone is demonstrating that they were working equitably within the team. I think that you're used to that, so I'm not going to go through that too much. Okay, so that settles the criteria, and I hope you see the points that you really do have to focus on. And obviously, if you reach excellence in these points, it goes to the next band. In terms of prepping, so lots of little housekeeping. So it talks about using media and using media sources, and that those media sources need to be relevant if you use them. So you are totally allowed to use a little video if you want to show it. So technical issue with Moodle is with Collaborate. So you can't show videos directly through Collaborate, but it doesn't have to stop you. I've often done it in class. The only thing that you have to do is really get ready then with the hyperlink of your video. What you do is you put it in the chat box and you ask everyone to mute their mic and to click on the video at the same time. So a pop-up will come up on their screen. It will happen almost simultaneously. People will be able to watch the video, and then when the video closes, they go back and can put the mic on again, or maybe just stay with the mic off. So it's totally possible to include video if you want to. And don't hesitate, because again, that's part of being engaging. If it's a 50-second, 2-minute video, sometimes it makes a point really well, and it helps you progress in your presentation and your conceptualization. So sometimes it's important. So don't push off and dismiss the notion of video inclusion. It's very easy to do. Hyperlink, you put it in the chat room, it'll come up as a hyperlink. People are able to click on it directly from Collaborate, and a pop-up window will open. They close it, come back to you for the rest. In terms of slide uploading, so Keith was not able to tell me so far whether you have facilitator features on your interface, which means that at the bottom where you have, if you click on the red sort of double arrows in white on the red background, it expands. Once it's maximized, you should be seeing various things. So you obviously do that already because you do have the chat box, but right next to it, you should have the capacity to share documents. And if you click on share documents, a menu opens, and then you will see that it has a sort of uploading cross. Plus, you click on that, you upload your document. It takes a couple of, well, sometimes as long as a couple of minutes, but otherwise seconds to convert. And then your document is there and it stays there. And then when you want to share, you just click on it and the first slide will appear. And then you can use the slide mover on Collaborate screen itself. If you don't have that interface, so you can try yourself, you can go in the room during this weekend and try it. If you don't have access, then it's easy enough because during the session, I will give you facilitator access. So you will be the person, the team, one person, or all of you will have the facilitator feature, and you'll be able to do that. So we have two choices if you don't have that feature. I can meet you as a team before your presentation time, and we can go through that together. I can show you, and we can load up the document together, and then it's on there, and it stays in the Collaborate room forever until we take it down. Or I can meet with you sort of 10-15 minutes before, if you prefer, and we can do all that before you actually present. That's totally up to you. I'm pretty much here all weekend, working away at home and doing other things. So I can meet you briefly if you want to get ready and do that now. I'm thinking your PowerPoints are maybe not ready on Saturday. One team's presenting Sunday, so presumably they will be. The others may want to do it later. It's totally up to you. If you want training, as it talks about using technology, now Moodle only has limited capacity unless again you use hyperlink and you ask people to open a pop-up window, but it does have a polling tool which is built in, which isn't very difficult to use. So again, I can meet with your team and show you the polling feature if you don't have access to it yet, or if you want some assistance with that. It has a timer too, so that may be useful because the presentation is not terribly long, and your team, you have a lot to say. So if you want to put a timer, again, it's incredibly easy. And you will see, it means that on screen, you will be able to see your time as it sort of winds down, which enables you to do effective timekeeping. So, I'll await messages from you. If you want some sessions with that beforehand, we can do that this weekend. If you want to meet just before, 15 minutes before, we can do that as well. It will be completely up to you. Now, the last point was briefing notes, and I had a couple of emails asking me, is the briefing note due on the day of presentation? It's not. If you look at the schedule, which I haven't changed, it actually states that it's due on the 23rd of June. That's where the Dropbox is set for. So you have a full week till the end of the last presentation, because presentation were scheduled for the whole of next week, 10 to 16th, and then it gives you another week to put in the briefing note. If you don't have to leave it that long, I mean, you've got other assignments, and particularly one big individual assignment coming up, so you may not want to, to drag it to the point where you are, having to do two assignments at the same time. So by all means, post it really when you're happy. It's totally normal that you will want some time after the presentation, because you will have questions. Those questions may lead you to amend some of your sources or add a paragraph. So it's really about an organic sort of development from the presentation. So if you want to get it ready for the presentation, by all means do, but give yourself the opportunity to add to it and change it, because again, the presentation in itself is something interactive, hopefully fun, that makes you think of of things that maybe you hadn't brought up yet, and then you'll be able to add to the briefing note, add resources if you need them, or maybe go further in your analysis, and then post it in the Dropbox whenever you're ready. Again, we're modeling to you a real world skill. Really, what you're doing there is exactly the same process as a conference sort of presentation. So in a conference presentation, often it's 20 minutes. You arrive, sometimes your presentation is still fairly raw. You come with a PowerPoint, you try and be interactive, engaging, do this within 20 minutes, have a tone as academic as possible, while still, allowing dialogue with the audience. And then in most conferences, you will have 5 to 10 minutes of questions. So your audience, your peers, is doing an instantaneous peer review and pushes you a little further in your reflection, or ask for more clarity if maybe you've taken certain things for granted. And then in conferences, often you have conference proceedings, which means that that presentation turns into a paper, which is not necessarily a journal article, but it's a conference proceeding paper, a lot like a briefing note, except it would be a little longer. And that gives you a chance to expand, to include your full references, to clarify things you had not had time to clarify, and to push your reflection a little further, and to address some of the questions that the audience had during your conference presentation. So that's what the assignment is modeled on, is really trying you to have a go at a real world skill for that an academic has to address as they begin their career. So I will leave you now, and I will try and post this right away and leave you a little message saying that this is up if you want to have a look at it. I will put it in the assignment sections. People have been complaining Moodle is sometimes difficult to follow. I do empathize. I was a student not that long ago. I dealt with Moodle on 6 different campuses. It always is problematic because there's only so many features that we can have to make it more accessible. It's also difficult because my interface is not your interface, instructor interface is not the student interface. So sometimes I'm putting labels, I'm putting things, but I don't actually get to see what it looks like from your interface. And to add to the problem, the Moodle structure is created by CTETs, created by the instructional designers. It's not created by us. So we can tweak it, but we don't have control over it. So I'm gonna try and rationalize and go through it over this weekend again and see where we can simplify the sections and maybe make it more logical. I take your comments on board, but again, I think this is something I've heard for the last 4 years of teaching in different environments, and Moodle does have its frustration, and that's what we're using to teach. But what I can do here is just put it in the assignment so that it's not in section in Unit 2, and you will be able to see that it relates directly to the assignments. So I wish you a good night and a good weekend, and I look forward to your presentations, and don't hesitate to contact me if you've got any questions. Okay, have a good night. Bye.